Hi everybody, how you doing? Well, that's good. Welcome to the PHLY Flyers show presented by Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365, and new presenting sponsor, Ford, presented by your local Ford store. We are broadcasting live from the Xfinity studio here at PHLY. I am Charlie O'Connor. Bill Matz is obviously not here today, but we have Broad Street Hockey's own Maddie Campbell, the prospect and Lehigh Valley Phantoms expert. Maddie, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Glad
Yeah.
to be back live in studio instead of beaming in from my house. Nice to mix it up.
Exactly. So Maddie, she has a bit of a drive to get here, so it's always a treat when we can actually have Maddie in studio. She's taken the extended drive to Philadelphia. So thank you so much for being willing to make the trek.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's a perfect time, I think, for us to talk about the Phantoms because Maddie, of course, for Broad Street Hockey and also for PHLY, covers the Lehigh Valley Phantoms in addition to covering Flyers games as well up in the Wells Fargo Center or whatever it's called now, press box, whatever it's called now. So I thought this was the best person to bring on the show to really dive deep into what the Phantoms are going to look like. But before we get into Phantom stuff, we have a bunch of things to tell you about here at PHLY. To start, today we have launched a Diehards sale celebrating the looming beginning of Eagles season and also the launch of a new t-shirt, Bird Gang Football Club. It is out. $36 for a year. It is the Football Club special. Comes with a free Football Club t-shirt. We're about to get going with Flyers stuff. I know this is an Eagles promotion, but hockey's right around the corner. We got the rookie game in a few weeks, the rookie games in a few weeks. Then we'll have main camp, and then we'll have preseason games and actual hockey. So if you want to read my articles, Maddie's articles, Alex Appleyard's articles, if you want to read those articles about the Flyers, we're going to be having a lot more of them coming, and this is a perfect time to get in on the ground floor, get a cheap deal, become a diehard, and read all of that stuff. So that's number one. Number two, we do have a schedule change for the PHLY Flyers show. So starting next Tuesday, this week, we will be remaining at 12 p.m. This is our off-season time. However, next Tuesday, after Labor Day, we will be switching to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's Tuesday, September 2nd. So if you subscribe on YouTube, you'll get the updates. Obviously, you get the notifications. If you're not subscribed to YouTube but listen to the show and watch the show every day, subscribe. Give us a subscribe. But if you are not a subscriber, just know we are switching to 4 p.m. So if you want to watch live, not at 12 p.m. anymore, and the 4 p.m. showtime will last at the very least through the end of this season. Just fits better with practice schedules and whatnot. And then finally, want to talk to you about our road trip to Anaheim with Philly Sports Trip. It's going to be exciting. It's pretty far in the future, March 17th through the 22nd of 2026. But get those tickets now. We're going to be watching the Kings. We're going to be watching Cutter Gauthier and the Ducks. Then we're going to apparently be having a party on the beach for the San Jose game. This is going to be a pretty darn good time. So check that out. That is on the allphly.com website. It's through the great people at Philly Sports Trips who ran our trip to Montreal a few months back at the end of last season. They did a fantastic job. They're great people. And we're going to have John LeClair there with us too. John LeClair, not only a Flyers legend, but a current employee, a current member of the front office. So you want to pick his brain, see what he's thinking about prospects, see what he's thinking about the prospects that will actually be willing to meet with him when he goes to visit them at their respective colleges, unlike one Cutter Gauthier. Yeah. It's a great time to do it. You can talk to John LeClair. He's a great guy. So those are the things that I wanted to talk about before we got into the real meat of the show with Maddie Campbell. As I mentioned earlier, it is a Phantom show. Think of this as the early season preview for the 2025-2026 Lehigh Valley Phantoms. We're going to get into the details of the roster, of the forwards, the defensemen, the goalies. That'll be the bulk of the show. But the big news about the team, even beyond the fact that they have a bunch of guys that are turning pro that are really exciting, top 10 prospects in the organization, like Oliver Bonk, Barkey, The Lehigh Valley Phantoms have a new coach.
Yeah.
Now, they have been operating under the stewardship of Ian LaPerriere for quite a while, but that ended this summer. The Flyers decided to go into a different direction with their affiliate. LaPerriere still remains an employee of the team, but it seems pretty clear that that is more of a, we're going to keep paying you until you find somewhere that you maybe feel like your career would be best served.
Yes.
They're just giving him a little bit of a soft landing before he finds a spot, hopefully to coach, whether as an assistant or a head coach somewhere else. But in the interim, well, not even in the interim, to replace him, John Snowden, who was a member of the coaching staff last year. Seems like generally speaking, people are optimistic about this one, although I suspect some of that might come from the fact that people were generally not big fans of Ian LaPerriere, the coach. So it's like, the next guy can't be any worse, right? But Maddie, as someone who covered the team last year, what can you tell us about John Snowden? What were you able to learn about him, about what his reputation is, what he's good at, and just generally about the person?
Yeah, I definitely think there's like a little bit of shiny new toy syndrome happening with the excitement around the hire, but I know I left his introductory press conference situation feeling really optimistic. I know it's easy to say a lot of the right things in those sort of settings, and executing is a different beast entirely. But I think he has a clear vision of how he wants the team to play already, which is exciting. Something we maybe didn't quite see as much last year is the details focus right off the bat. That's super, super apparent. And the fact that, it seems like he wants to transition to a more up-tempo style, more transition forward rather than like dump and chase cycle heavy, which is kind of what they were leaning on a little bit more last year. I think it makes for more exciting hockey, just sort of plainly, but
Sure.
I think it's going to benefit the players that they have on the roster a little bit better, between the returning players and some of the new guys. So definitely kind of a wait and see element there, obviously, but I'm cautiously optimistic.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought I heard, because this was something that John Tortorella was open about, that he did not want to require his head coach to coach the exact same systems as the NHL team. He wanted to give his AHL coach freedom. It seems like the Flyers are moving with Snowden more into the systems being in more lockstep. Is that true?
Yes, and that's something that he touched on right off the bat as well. They're still having a little bit of creativity, like what they're doing offensively is going to be kind of up to the coach at each level, but their defensive zone structure going to be exactly the same, from the Flyers level, Phantoms level, Royals level. So it's going to help some of these guys who are looking to graduate to the next level on a more permanent basis, but also guys that just have to move up and down as injuries necessitate, as always seems to happen throughout the course of a long season. So I think that's going to be major. And I think we had some guys last year who seemed to struggle a little bit jumping between different systems and maybe taking a couple of games to figure out, oh, right, this is what's expected of me at this level, and I have to kind of correct. So hopefully it makes things a little bit more seamless going forward.
Yeah, one thing that I found very interesting about the way that the up and down went last season is you had some guys who would get called up and then would even look better, for a while. Helge Grans being one who
Mhm.
came up and was like, wow, he looks really good. And then you had guys like Emil Andre who they would get called up, they'd look good, then they'd get sent down and they'd struggle for a bit. And you do start to wonder if there was something to be said about, number one, the quality of the systems they were running down there,
Yes.
but number two, also just that it was the differences made it tougher for even, what should be easier when you're going down a level. Like you should, okay, well,
Yeah.
I was real good in the NHL. I should be able to crush the AHL. And didn't seem like that was happening a lot of times.
Yeah, and it also makes it tough to just like optically, you see a guy doing pretty well, like you said, up at the NHL level, coming down, struggling. It's like, oh my God, is he pouting? Is he
Right.
upset that
Right.
he's been sent down? Like, no, I think he's just struggling with the adjustment to the new system that's being not completely thrown at him out of the blue because like he was there before, but it's a lot to adjust to in a long season. It can be a little whiplashy. So I have some some sympathy for that situation. It was a tough one.
That's fair. Yeah, and I think it's one of those things where it, it really just depends on the preference of the organization more than anything
Yeah.
else. Because I've covered Flyers front offices, like the Hextall front office, even the Fletcher front office in the beginning with the Elaine Vigneault as head coach. They were very adamant that they wanted the AHL team to play the same system,
Yeah.
so it was seamless. And then Torts came in and is like, "Nah, we're giving the coach more freedom. This is the way I like it." So it does seem like it's more of a philosophical thing, and I'm sure that there are strengths and weaknesses to both approaches. It just kind of boils down to, and I think even, I mean, maybe Ian LaPerriere might not say this, unless you hooked him up to a lie detector, got a few beers in him, but like he was never a systems expert. Like
Yeah.
like everybody who's played professional hockey, they know systems, but he wasn't an X's and O's mastermind
Yes.
the way that like, the best NHL coaches of all time tend to be.
Yeah.
He was more of a motivator more than anything else. And like, I don't know, do you really want someone who's more of a motivator than also designing a system when that might not even play to his strengths anyway?
Yeah, that's super fair. And I think this is also going to benefit Snowden specifically. He talked about this is a kind of setup that feels familiar to him from his time in Toronto's organization. They were doing that same thing, sort of emphasizing playing at least similar systems top to bottom. And he felt like that was a benefit to their players. I'm sure just setup wise, it's going to make the transition to head coach for the first time at this level a little bit easier on him.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I just think too, knowing what I know about Danny Briere and the way that he would ideally want his organization to be run, this idea of the NHL and AHL systems were moving in lockstep, it tracks more with, I think, the way Briere ideally would want it to work.
Yeah.
I think he made a lot of concessions to John Tortorella because John Tortorella was John Tortorella. And now, with Tocchet and with Snowden, he can not flex his muscle because I don't think he's forcing anybody, but I think it's more just like, yeah, if I could run my ideal organization, this is how I would run it. So now I'm going to run my organization exactly the way I want to run it because I don't have John Tortorella, threatening to throw, a tantrum if he doesn't get his way.
Yeah. And they're definitely in an interesting position too. New NHL coach, new AHL coach, new ECHL coach. So they have a really good opportunity here to just get everybody on the same page from the get-go. So I don't know how often you see that, but it seems like it could be a good thing.
Well, fingers crossed. And I guess, before we go into the players that could complicate our attempts to put together a roster, because we don't know if they're going to make the NHL team or not, where's your head at in terms of your expectations and hopes for the product on the ice? Like, do you think this could be a good team? Do you like maybe not a top tier AHL team, but do you think they can be better than they were last year in terms of record?
I think so. I think this is without a doubt the most talent they've had at their disposal since at least I've been covering the team. So that's exciting. Now they are very young,
Okay.
which can make things like a little bit more volatile as everybody's trying to still find their footing at this level. But I think it's going to be more fun to watch,
Okay.
which I'll absolutely take after last season, which was often not super fun, to put it gently. But yeah, I think they're in a good position to take a step forward if, they can take all of the good ideas that it seems like Snowden's bringing into the season and actually make them actionable. Also, I think they're going to get a little help, not to get like too into the weeds, but I think they're going to get a little help from the rest of their division. It seems like Wilkes-Barre and Hershey are losing some guys, so like that could help them out as they try to do a little better in the standings as well.
I mean, I would love it if the Phantoms were, I'm not expecting them to win a Calder Cup, but I would love it if they had a legitimate chance where it wasn't, you weren't going into the playoffs thinking, maybe they could put a scare into Hershey.
Yeah.
Where you're thinking, they are one of the top 4, 5, 6 teams in the AHL and they could go on a run. And, if they sign a guy from college and send him to the Phantoms for the end of the year, that he could go on a 20-game playoff run. That would be really cool.
For sure.
So fingers crossed on that front. But before we get into the roster overall, I want to talk real quick about players who have a chance to make the team out of camp. This is the Future is Bright segment presented by Shady Rays. So I want to talk about the guys who we will be discussing, but maybe won't be on the roster, or at least will go up and down. They'll have moments, stretches where they're on the NHL team. So the guys that put in the outline as players who I think have a chance, at least have a chance to make the team out of camp. Alex Bump, obviously. Then you've got the two defensemen they signed, the veteran defenseman Noah Juleson, Dennis Gilbert, both guys who spent extended time in the NHL last year, got games in the NHL, but were kind of signed as presumptive swingmen.
Yeah.
Then you've got Emil Andre and Helge Grans, two defensemen who could theoretically usurp those guys and make the opening night roster, especially with Rasmus Ristolainen, his status being in question, let's say.
Yes.
Nikita Gurbenkin, the player who they got in the trade for the trade of Scott Lawton to Toronto at the end of last season. And then Rodrigo Albles, who got a decent amount of NHL time last year, was fine in those minutes, but spent most of the year in the AHL. Number one, Maddie, is there anybody you think I'm missing?
I think those are the major players. You could probably make a case for like a Carson Dorwart or an Anthony Richard being at least in the mix.
Fair.
But I would say those two are probably on the outside of that group. But yeah, I mean, a pretty significant group there that is going to be vying for not too many spots available come training camp. So going to be interesting for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, Bump to me is the guy who jumps out the most.
Yeah.
Especially because there is theoretically a spot, especially if they're willing to not shoehorn Christian Dvorak into a top 9 role.
Yeah.
If they're fine with him being a 4C or even on the left wing, as a winger on the fourth line, there is a spot for Bump, even assuming that Tyson Forrester is good to go. He could still fill a spot on the second or third line. So there is a spot available. I kind of have that in my head as the Shabanov spot, like the spot that they were like saving for him.
Yeah.
It's like, well, now there's a spot for Bump because he apparently had a voice in his head telling him that he should go to Long Island.
Sure.
He did an interview with a Russian outlet and he said like, yeah, I was told, the voices in my head were telling me this is the right spot for me. Like, all right, if you really think Long Island is the best spot to live, cool, bud.
Okay.
I think Philadelphia is better, but that's just me. I might be a little biased.
Yeah.
But sure, you know what?
That's so funny.
Have at it. But Bump seems to me to be the most likely. Even so, when I've talked to people in the organization, they mention that, look, Bump could make the team out of camp. Especially if he looks as good in main camp and rookie camp as he did in development camp. But that doesn't mean he's going to spend the entire year up with the team.
Yeah.
Bobby Brink, when he made the team, he ended up getting sent down for a month or two before he got called back up at the end of the year. So there is certainly a world where Bump makes the team and then spends time in the AHL. But I think out of this group, he probably, I would say, is the most likely. Although guys like Grans, Gurbenkin, Andre, like they have chances too.
Yeah, definitely. And I think definitely there are still some things that Bump needs to work on in his game, but it's going to be then a question of, do they prefer that he works on them when the defense is coming at him or, not quite as difficult to work with at the AHL level, or if they think they're things he's going to be able to work with either way. And they're going to have the patience to let him work through some of those. I'm trying so hard not to say work through those bumps at the NHL level.
We're all here for a good pun.
Yeah.
We're here for a good pun. And when a guy's last name is Bump, he has to know.
Yeah.
He has to know that he is going to be the subject of so many puns. I mean, I said on Flyers Daily when I went on with Jason Martinez last week that nothing annoys me more about Owen Tippett, that I don't think he's had one tip goal his entire time as a member of the Philadelphia Flyers. It would be the easiest pun.
Yeah.
And he just is allergic to tip goals. Like, come on, man. It's too easy.
Yeah.
We all, as writers, we all want to use that headline, and you've kept that from us.
Need somebody to just grab him by the shoulders and shake him.
Yeah, like,
give us one.
Hang out on the slot and tip one. Like, come on. We really want it. Okay. Anyway, so before we get into the position groups, I want us to go to our first break. And to kick off our first commercial break, we're going to talk about a new partner, one of our presenting sponsors, actually, Ford and their classic Ford Explorer. Now, I can tell you, I'm a Ford supporter. My favorite NASCAR driver, Ryan Blaney, he's a Ford guy. He just won at Daytona on Saturday night. Big win for Team Ryan Blaney. But he drives a car. The Explorer, of course, is an SUV. And in fact, it's America's all-time best-selling SUV, a legacy of family trust and performance. It offers 3-row seating for up to 7 passengers, so it's great for families and road trips. It's available in rear-wheel drive or intelligent 4-wheel drive for better traction and control. Comes with a choice of 3 powertrains, including a hybrid for better fuel economy, 2.3-liter EcoBoost i4 engine delivers power with efficiency up to 300 horsepower, and available 3.0L EcoBoost V6 kicks it up to almost 400 horsepower in the ST trim. The hybrid model offers up to 500 miles of driving range, great balance of power and economy, and it's packed with Ford Copilot 360, a suite of advanced driver assist features. A 12.3 digital instrument cluster adds a high-tech feel to the driving experience, and there's an available Sync 4 infotainment system with a large touch screen and voice command. Got the terrain management system, which lets you drive modes such as snow, sand, and tow haul. Offers up to 87.8 cubic feet of cargo space with the rear seats folded down. And rear seat passengers get available cabins chairs for extra comfort and accessibility. Standard Apple CarPlay and Android Auto across all trims. It's built for families, but ready for an adventure, a true do-it-all SUV. For more information, visit your local Ford store. Next up, I want to tell you about our partners at Xfinity, who sponsor our studio. I've been told their Wi-Fi is booming. I was told.
Big if true.
I was also told that life is unpredictable, but the price of your internet shouldn't be. So get a reliable price for a reliable connection. All in means all in. Get Wi-Fi equipment and unlimited data included. And introducing the 5-year price guarantee from Xfinity. One internet price, 5 years, guaranteed. Change is always happening. Rules are rewritten, records are broken, athletes come and go. But no matter what changes in 5 years, the price of your internet will stay the same. Learn more at Xfinity.com. Restrictions apply. New residential customers only. Taxes and fees extra and subject to change. Maddie, we are back, and now we are talking forwards on the Lehigh Valley Phantoms, and there are a lot of them.
There sure are.
There are a lot. You know, looking at this list, and we're gonna have Bree, our producer. Bryn is on vacation today. Looking at this list, I don't think I realized when they chose not to re-sign Elliot Desnoyers. I was like, well, that's weird. And, you know, yeah, he has regressed, but he's still a likable guy. They like him in the organization. They think very highly of him as a person. Looking at this list, I'm like, oh, now I get why they didn't resign. Because they have so many guys. Like we're talking about 18 guys, I believe, on this list. Obviously, you can only play 12 at once. Now, we note it. Guys like Bump, Grabenkin, Obels, maybe one or more of those guys makes the team. But even if 2 of those guys make the team, we still have 16 players under either an NHL contract or an AHL only deal that are going to need to play. And yeah, you got the ECHL that you can use, and we can get into that, you know, in the next few minutes. But they got a lot of guys who are legitimate AHL caliber players at the very least.
Yeah, and it's going to be a tricky thing for them to navigate because, you know, like we touched on before, so many of these guys are prospects that they need to kind of figure out what they are and what they can do soon. So they've used kind of a rotation over the last few years. They haven't relied too much on using Reading as a bit of an overflow space. So, like, do you want to have that many guys rotating in and out of the lineup heading into this season? I know there's some value in getting that sort of zoomed out look at things, but that's a lot.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, and I guess that's going to be the job of Snowden to figure it out and navigate it. Because yeah, you know, it's a numbers game, and sure, there's going to be injuries. Guys are going to get hurt. Guys are going to get called up. There's going to be injuries at the Flyers level too. That's going to affect this. So that plays into why they have so much depth, I'm sure.
Sure.
Because they know they're going to have to tap into it. Some guys are going to exceed expectations and maybe carve out a full-time NHL role. But it is a lot. And especially if everyone's healthy, it's going to be a task for a new coach.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just I'm like sort of overwhelmed looking at the list. Like, I don't know how they're gonna do it. But I guess that's why I'm not getting paid the big bucks.
That is true. Coach. That is true. Yeah, we do not get paid the big bucks. Although I don't know how much Snowden. I don't know what the average AHL coach salary is. I imagine it's more than what we make. Yeah. But I also imagine it's not so exorbitant that they're living it up.
Yeah. Fair enough.
I imagine. So one thing I want to do today is I want to kind of go through a look of what we would do for lines and usage of the players that we have here. Now, you're feel free to pop Alex Bump or those guys in there if you want. For me personally, I am assuming Bump makes the team.
Sure.
So I'm going to leave him out of this exercise for me. But if you want to make the strong case that no, I think Bump should be first line left wing because he's not going to make the team, we'll go with it. But I want this kind of to be a discussion. And let's sort of try to come to a consensus on like what we want, line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4, and then who are the guys that we would rather be in that like healthy scratch, getting ECHL time mix. So I guess to kick it off, let's start with down the middle. When you look at the centers they have, who are you thinking should be the based on your view of the players, based on what you saw from them last year, who should be the guy at the top of the depth chart to start the year?
Yeah, that's a tricky one because I know they really love Jacob Gaucher. And he was getting a lot of minutes, particularly down the stretch into the playoffs. But fit-wise, it's going to be maybe a weird one because he's just like does not have a lot of foot speed. So if you want to have speedier wingers up on that line, that might be a tough one.
Might be tough. Yeah.
Let's put him there just
okay. All right.
Because they like his defensive acumen.
You think there's a good chance because he did finish with a solid point total last year. So there's a good chance. I would think the other person that would be a plausible option would be Carson Dorwart. Assuming he doesn't make the team because I know they like him a lot.
Yeah.
So I would think those two the most likely. I know they signed Lane Peterson. Now whether he's going to be used as center or wing, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But he's scored quite well at the AHL level when he's played there. So I would imagine he's in the mix as well if he gets played at center. Massimo Rizzo got some time at center. I've always viewed him more as a wing. Do you think that he would get center time this season?
I would say probably. Like, it seems like they're still trying to figure out exactly what he is and what he can do. So even just like from a purely experimental standpoint, I think he's going to get some reps there for sure.
Okay. And then obviously they have Rodrigo Abels who can play the middle. He can play the middle in the NHL level.
Yeah.
Presumably can play it at the AHL level as well. So let's stick Gaucher in that 1C spot. What are you thinking for wingers for him? So you're thinking you want to avoid having wingers that are too fast?
Yeah.
Because you're afraid they just will leave him in the dust?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we did see that happening last season and it was kind of tough to watch. But
do you think Barkey could be a fit, or is that putting him up too far up the lineup to start his AHL career?
Yeah, that might be kind of a tough ask to start the season.
Okay.
But then again, like I really liked Gaucher and Wisdom together.
Interesting.
So if you want to stick them, keep them stapled together, they might be able to insulate Barkey a little bit.
All right.
So
And Zaid can play both wings, right? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So that would be an interesting line. So it's going Zaid, Wisdom, Jacob Gaucher, and Barkey. So you give Barkey some veteran AHL help. And I mean, Gaucher brings size. Wisdom isn't huge, but he plays big.
Yeah.
So that would be interesting. I would be cool with that as a line. I would think probably Barkey on the left and then because he's more comfortable there as a left shot. Okay. I'm cool with a Barkey Gaucher Wisdom, because Wisdom had the great finish to last year, right?
Yeah.
So Zaid was his NHL contract, the ELC expired, and they did not qualify him. They let him leave, but then about a month after July 1, it was announced that he signed an AHL only deal, which was exciting because I know he's a popular guy.
Yeah. Everybody seems to really love him and he's a great story. And I just have so much respect for the work that he's been able to put in over this last year to really rebuild his game at this level, because heading into last season, it wasn't looking great for him. Like he was kind of bouncing between the ECHL and the AHL levels and looked kind of like a shell of his former self after that really good first season. So I'm glad he's sticking around. Yeah.
I am too. I've interviewed Zaid a bunch of times. He's a really good kid. Obviously came from an underprivileged background, didn't have a lot of money growing up. It would be really cool to see him make his NHL debut at some point. Now, obviously, he has to now earn an NHL contract, whether it be from the Flyers or someone else. Yeah. But if he builds off of what he did in the second half of last year, I think that's on the table.
Absolutely. And I mean, Snowden also called him out directly as a guy who he sees as being really critical to building up a good culture and teaching good pro habits to some of these younger players coming into the mix. So a lot of value in sort of the complete package of him as a player.
Okay. All right. Cool. I like it. All right. Now let's go with Dorwart centering the second line. Now Carson Dorwart has a chance to make the team out of camp. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. I see him more as a guy who is more of a call up option. But he did get games at the end of the year when he was signed out of Michigan State. So there is a precedent for them giving him a chance. To me, he's more of an AHL to start, but they like him enough that I imagine if he starts in the AHL, he's gonna get minutes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll have him center line 2. I'm thinking this might be a good spot for Tuamala. What are you thinking?
I would say any of like the 3, Tuamala, Gendron, or Richard.
Okay.
All kind of bringing similar elements. I think they could fit in nicely on that line.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, Anthony Richard, the legendary Tony Dick. We're all familiar with the
Big
man,
fan.
the man with the great nickname, to be sure. Gendron, I'm intrigued by him because you wrote about him a lot in your articles for us this past year about how, he was presenting himself as a much more dynamic threat, taking more advantage of his speed, scoring goals. Where do you think he's at in his development right now?
I think he's definitely in a better spot than I expected, maybe heading into the season. But he's, I think, doing really well to learn. Like, the offense was never really a question mark with him. Like, he can score, he can beat guys one-on-one with his speed. That was always going to be working for him, even in his sort of false start in the league as a 19-year-old. That was coming through. Now he's learning a lot more of like what to do away from the puck, what to do, when he's not scoring, how to set up his line mates a little bit better. Still some work to go in on that in that area, but I like the way things are trending for him, and I think he's done a lot to endear himself to, well, the old coaching staff, but he started the season like really in the doghouse still.
Okay.
And he worked his way up really nicely.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess it doesn't hurt that, his dad is a scout with the organization.
Also that.
I'm sure that gives him a little bit of, but that's, it only goes so far.
Yeah.
So, but he does have that in where Marty Gendron is a scout with the organization.
Yeah.
But he was impressive last year. I mean, I didn't get a chance to watch a ton, but you gave me very positive reviews, and I get the sense the organization likes him as well. He's obviously very quick.
Yeah.
The skating ability pops, and it does seem like he has some finishing ability as well. So I don't know. I mean, do you think this line, the Dorwart line, needs some size on the wing? Because, I mean, you've got Gurbenkin, you've got Kaplan as options to bring some size. Then you've got Tuamala, Richard, Gendron, who bring more the speed element.
It's tough.
I want Gurbenkin, if he doesn't make the team, I want him getting minutes.
Yes.
And he did impress, I would say, for the most part, with the Phantoms last year. I mean, I think you said he got time as the net front guy on the power play. I like Gurbenkin. I don't want him to get buried in the lineup as like a fourth liner.
For sure.
Question is, where do you fit him in? Because he's one of those guys I want playing every night.
Yeah. I'd be comfortable with him on that second line, I think, to beef it up a little bit.
So maybe we go Richard on the left, or do we put Tuamala on that line with Gurbenkin and Dorwart?
I would go Richard.
Okay.
I think they played together a little bit down the stretch as well, and I kind of liked that. So a little bit of familiarity there.
All right, let's go with that. So now we've got our second line as Anthony Richard, Carson Dorwart, and Nikita Gurbenkin to back up the first line of Denver Barkey, Jacob Gaucher, and Zayd Wisdom. All right, we're making some progress here. Now, this is when it gets a little tough. Because I think, like, if we're talking centers, Obels is probably, like, the next most established guy. I don't know what they're going to do with Lane Peterson. I'm not sure if they're going to use him down the middle, if they're going to use him at wing. When the Flyers announced the signing, they announced him as a center. But, I mean, forwards, pretty much all forwards can play center if they really want to. It's just whether they're good at it. But I guess we'll go with, you want to go with Obels here?
Yeah, especially with, Snowden having a little bit more familiarity with him, I would say seniority-wise in the organization, he's got a little bit of a leg up there on that job.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we kind of have to put Tuamala on this line.
Yeah.
We're talking about like one of the top scorers on the team for the last couple of years. I mean, the offense is obviously there. They might not be fully sold on the all-around game, but they still, I think, like him. I had an interview last week with Brent Flair for our coming top 20 prospects piece, and I basically on the record asked him, is Tuamala in danger of basically going the LA Desnoyers route of like his contract's up at the end of the year of like not getting a contract? And Flair on the record basically is like, nah, we like him. You know,
Okay.
we may not be as high on his NHL readiness as he is.
Sure.
But the things he brings to the table are impressive enough that he's not a guy we're just going to cast aside because he's not quite yet ready for the NHL. So I do think they still want Tuamala to step up. So I think he's a no-brainer on this line. And he's more a right winger than a left winger.
Yes.
Is that true?
Yes.
Can he play the left?
I think they might have had him there like a little bit in a pinch, but mostly the right side.
Okay. So he's more of a right side guy.
Yeah. And I like him with obbles. I think he's got to learn to play a little bit less of a sort of net focused tunnel vision type game, like learn to exist a little bit better on a line with other players. That sounds kind of harsh, but I think having a veteran influence like obbles and, you know, a guy who's very, I would say, detailsy.
Okay.
Good in that area.
Yeah, I would say
should be
that's
a good
way to describe Obbles' game.
Yeah.
I think people generally liked what they saw from Obbles in the NHL. Not that he was, oh my God, he needs to be playing 82 games for this team, but as a guy who held his own, you know, it's not easy to hold your own at the NHL level, and he was fine.
Perfectly cromulent.
Perfectly cromulent. Love that description. Okay, so we've got Obbles and we got Tuamala. So now we got one more spot to fill on that line 3. And we got a decent amount of options here. We've got, you know, we have Gendron, who you mentioned. We have John Randall Avon, who has certainly shown flashes. We have Devin Kaplan, who they signed to that contract, who they are talking up as a potential guy to make the team. I don't quite see it, but they seem like he obviously got the one game at the end of the year. Had a couple good shifts in that game 82. Then you've got guys like Garrett Wilson. You got Sawyer Bolton, who may spend some time in the ACHL. You've got Oscar Eklund, who they brought back. You got Cooper Marody, who, what's his deal? Because he's under contract. Is he going to play?
That's a great question. He was like around for he like started the season, or he got hurt in preseason.
Yes.
Was out for a while, came back for a hot second, got hurt again, I think was his.
I think he played like one game last year for the team.
Yeah.
So I'm operating under the assumption, because I know he's under contract with the Phantoms for another year for this season. So I'm operating under the assumption he's in the mix, but also he's an AHL guy who's a vet. You know, how much are they going to prioritize him when they have so many quality prospects they want to develop?
Yeah.
He's in the same boat as Garrett Wilson, although Wilson, I think, brings more intangible leadership qualities to the table as opposed to Marody.
Yeah. I'm going to push Marody to the side just because, like, I also haven't even heard if he's 100% ready to go to start the season.
Okay.
Just trying to make our lives a little bit easier.
That's fair.
Here.
Totally
Maybe that's cheating, but yeah, this is tough. Because I do want to keep Gendron in the top 9.
I mean, that would give two speed wingers with Obbles.
Yeah.
I mean, that would certainly, because he's not the fastest guy. The question is, like, how important is it to them to give Kaplan the opportunity?
Yeah.
Because they do like him. I know you're not as high, but they do seem to like him. They like the plausible upside. However, he could end up just being a fourth liner at the NHL level, even if he makes it. So maybe it's not the worst thing to develop on the fourth line, as long as they're getting more than 6-7 minutes a night.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe this is a situation where we see those 3 kind of in a platoon for those 2 wing spots on that line. I don't know.
Okay.
These are the hard decisions they're going to have to make.
Let's go with Gendron, because it seems like he showed the most last year, and you are the highest on his upside.
This is me strong-arming him into that spot.
This is the way we want the lineup to look. It doesn't have to be the way we think it's going to look. So now we have a first line of Denver Barkey, Jacob Gaucher, Zayd Wisdom. We have a second line of Anthony Richard, the famous Tony Dick, Carson Dorwart, Nikita Gurbenkin. We have a third line of Alexis Gendron, Rodrigo Obbles, Samu Tuamala. Now we're on to line 4. So is this where you slot in Massimo? Is he 4C to start the year? Do we throw Peterson in there? Where are we at?
I don't know. I think It's a tricky one because it seemed like Rizzo fell out of favor a little bit with at least LePerriere.
Okay, well, now he's got a new coach.
Yeah, so it's gonna be, I think it's sort of a cop-out to say, like, a lot is gonna come down to what he does in their preseason, to get himself back into favor.
Is Eklund an option at center? Or was he more of a
Yeah,
wing like last year for the Phantoms?
he's an
He's an option.
option.
Okay.
That doesn't move me,
Fair.
but
It's not a ringing endorsement from one Maddie Campbell.
yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, we can throw Rizzo on that
All right,
line.
let's throw Rizzo as the center to that line. Is this where you have to get Garrett Wilson in?
Yeah,
Because he's that leadership guy on the team.
yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, he might not even be a guy who plays every single night. I think he didn't play the whole season last year, and that wasn't entirely health related. So I
Okay.
think he understands his on ice role
Okay.
at this point in his career. So that does give them a little bit of flexibility to work some more of these prospects into the mix.
Okay. So he's an off and on guy.
Yeah.
We'll put him on line 4 because of the value there. And then I think we have to get Kaplan here.
Yeah,
This is
absolutely.
where Kaplan has to go.
Yeah.
Because he's got to play. You know, he's a third round pick. They signed him to an entry level contract. They want to see what they have in him. So okay. So then we're basically gonna have like Avon Gendron are in a little bit of a timeshare and on that third line. Oscar Eklund's peeking in, trying to earn some spots. Cooper Marody, we don't know what his deal is.
Question mark.
Maybe he can play, maybe he can. He was a good AHL player when he was healthy before.
Yeah.
But
I hope he's good to go, but
I mean, hey, what the hell?
We'll see.
And then Lane Peterson, we'll see where he falls in. But we'll go with the fourth line as Devin Kaplan, Massimo Rizzo, Garrett Wilson, with the knowledge that there's going to be a lot of maneuvering.
yeah, I think if we frame that as this is our potential opening night roster,
Okay.
I'm comfortable with that.
Okay. So then we can put Avon, Eklund, Peterson, Bolton on that, like, bench area.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, looking at this top to bottom, it doesn't look bad. You could probably have one more like really good AHL center because I'm not sure if Gaucher really qualifies as like a really good 1C on a contending AHL team. But Denver Barkey, Tuamala, Gurbenkin, these are quality NHL prospects. They really are. Wisdom established himself at the end of last season as a quality AHLer. Anthony Richard is a really good AHL player. This is an intriguing lineup, not gonna lie, at least on the forward side.
Yeah, definitely. Probably still some growing pains that they'll have to get through, but exciting, if nothing else.
If nothing else. And before we go to the defensemen, let's take another commercial break. So we're going to start with a long-standing partner here at PHLY, one of our favorite partners here, TrueMark Financial, local company, local bank, local credit union. Believe it or not, back to school season, it's almost here. And even though I don't have kids heading back to class, still a great time to take advantage of seasonal deals, office supplies, new clothes, tech upgrades, everything in between. Also, a really good time to buy stuff for next summer because, hey, they're trying to get rid of it. It's a great time to get it cheap. This year, I'm planning ahead. I'm using my TrueMark Financial Credit Union debit card that earns rewards. So every time I swipe that card and choose credit on purchases, whether it's a planner, headphones, just some much needed everyday essentials, I'm earning points. And those points, I can redeem them for cash, gift cards, travel, merchandise, and more. I've already got my eye on a gift card that'll come in handy for fall shopping. Got to prepare for Christmas. Simple way to get rewarded for buying the things I already need. If you're already a TrueMark Financial Credit Union member, be sure to check out your debit card benefits before you hit the stores or start shopping online. And if you're not a member yet, now's a great time to join. Just stop at one of TrueMark Financial's 24 branches or visit TrueMark.com to open an account. TrueMark Financial Credit Union is federally insured by the NCUA. Now I want to tell you about Parx Casino, because whether your favorite team wins or not, there's always another way to win on the Bet Parx Casino app. Check out brand new casino games, brand new online casino games like Huff and More Puff and Fireblaze Sky Queen, a Bet Parx exclusive. Play blackjack, roulette, craps, poker, baccarat, and hot online slots like Cash Eruption, 88 Fortunes, and Cleopatra online slots. Play hot online slots based on your favorite streaming shows like Walking Dead, Squid Game, Breaking Bad, and Peaky Blinders, and all your favorite classic casino games from wherever you are. New users get up to $1,000 casino bonus back if you're down in the first 24 hours. So get to betparks.com and download the app right now and enjoy all the action and excitement from the casino at your fingertips. You must be 21 and in PA, New Jersey, Maryland, or Michigan for Bet Parks. You love to play, you play to win, you bet. Bet Parks. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Kelly. Now, sorry.
Try again.
Sorry, Maddie. I'm so used to being locked in with coming out of that break and then going to Kelly.
We've been working together long enough.
My
We're
bad.
slowly merging into the same person.
That's not true. That is very much not true.
It's a little bit true.
It's a little bit true. Okay. Maddie, time for the defenseman. So this will be a little bit easier, but there's still a decent amount of defensemen. And again, only got 6 spots on defense. Got 12 spots of forward, 6 spots on defense. This is going to be crowded too.
Yes.
That said, a couple of these guys probably will not be in the AHL mix to start the year. I think we're all assuming that Rasmus Ristolainen at the very least is not going to be ready for the beginning of the season. How long that lasts, I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
I think the hope is that he could be getting back going by the end of camp.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean he'll be ready for game 1 because he will have missed the entirety of camp.
Takes a while to ramp up.
Exactly. So if we assume Ristolainen is out of the mix, that really only gives them 5 healthy defensemen at the NHL level. We're talking York, Sanheim, Drysdale, Sealer, and Zamula. That would be 2 guys that would come up. Now, they signed Noah Juleson and Dennis Gilbert to contracts this offseason. They both spent most of their seasons in the NHL last season for their respective teams. So I would guess that they're probably the chalk picks to make the team.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be exciting, but they're probably the chalk picks.
Yeah.
The more exciting picks to make the team would be Helge Grans or Emil Andre. Andre being the most exciting, I would say, the best prospect of the group.
Yeah.
Although I guess he's not really a prospect anymore. He was Calder eligible last season. So no longer a prospect. He's not in our top 20 list.
Womp womp.
Helge Grans is still a prospect per our guidelines because he has not yet broken that threshold. But those are the 2 guys. And then I guess there's a off chance that Oliver Bonk could bang the door down. He would have to have an amazing camp, though.
Yeah, and especially with the pace questions that we have with his game, like he could make it interesting, but I don't know that I would put money on him making like a real run at one of those spots.
I do wonder if there would be a little bit more buzz about him had he been able to be at development camp and skate. Like, because then you'd have maybe people being like, ooh, he was really impressive in those games. Maybe he could. Instead, he didn't get to show what he can do in an environment in development camp where he probably should excel. Like, if he was on the ice, he probably would have been one of the, if not the most impressive defensemen out there. And he just wasn't there. He was there. He just wasn't on the ice. So I do wonder if that's maybe tempering expectations, which may not be the worst thing, but I agree that it's unlikely. I think that they are planning for him to start the season in the AHL. And then, hey, from there, if you play well, maybe you can earn your way up. But I'm going to say Bonk almost certainly starts. For me, for doing this exercise, I'm going to say Juleson and Gilbert make the team. Let's just make it easy.
Yeah.
And then let's go with the prospects right off the jump. So first pair, Maddie, what's your first pair? Because you know who guys have played with at the AHL level, what chemistry is developed, and who was really getting leaned upon the most.
I definitely want Andre up there.
Okay, so you want Andre
kind of my number 1.
as the left defenseman to kick it off. Okay.
Yes. And then I want to say he played with Grans when he was down.
I think he did.
Yeah.
So we basically, on the right side, we've got Grans as an option. We've got Bonk as an option if you want to go real top prospect exciting. We've got Ethan Sansom as an option. He's a right side defenseman. So we have some options here. Who do you prefer?
I think I want Grans there.
Okay.
Just like really give Bonk a chance to ease into things. Yeah.
Okay.
I certainly could see him moving up as the season goes on, but I want to be gentle.
All right.
To start.
We're taking it easy with Oliver Bonk to start the year. So an opening pair of Emil Andre, Helge Grans. I mean, these are the 2 guys who are closest to the NHL. Either one of these guys could make the NHL team if they outplay Juleson or Gilbert or both. It could happen. Grans especially, I think, because he may be at least size-wise and handedness-wise, is the more seamless replacement for Ristolainen. I'd rather have Andre up because I think he's a better prospect, but I'm not opposed to the idea of
Yeah.
Helge Grans. But assuming they don't make the team, they start out the year with the first on the first pair. Okay. Second pair. Is this where we slide Bonk in?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we're putting Bonk on pair 2. And then we have some options here. So we got Adam Jinning. He goes by Jinning now.
Yes.
We've got Hunter McDonald as an option as well. Presumably he's going to get playing time. I believe that I put Carter Berger on this list, but I think he's more of an ECHL guy.
Yeah.
Ben Meehan, though, he could play because he's a guy they signed out of college.
Yeah.
So he could get some playing time, and then they also signed Ty Murchison.
Mm-hmm.
So these are your options here. Where are you at?
I would probably stick him with Jinning.
That's what I was thinking too.
The most experienced in the league of the sort of prospect-ish group.
Mm-hmm.
Plays a more stable game, should help to insulate him a little bit.
I think you definitely want Bonk with a guy who knows the ropes
Yes.
at the AHL game to start.
Yes.
You don't want to be like moving him in with another guy who's kind of running around trying to figure things out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. I like the idea of an Andre Bonk pairing at some point. Like that just
it would be so fun.
It seems fun.
Yeah.
Because Andre can do his thing and Bonk can do his thing. It seems like that could be a potential pairing at the NHL level if both those guys pan out. But I see where you're coming from with giving him, maybe more stability to start than Andre. Just naturally, you don't want Andre playing a stable game. You want him making plays. You want him doing things.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we've got first pair, Milan-Andre Helge Grans. Second pair, Adam Jinning, Oliver Bonk. Third pair, okay. You've got, I would say, 4 guys for these 2 spots. You got McDonald, you got me, and you got Samson, you got Murchison. Who out of that 4 do you want to prioritize the most?
I feel like it's got to be Samson and McDonald for me.
Okay. So Samson's a right shot, and he's got some people that like him. Some people in the organization, even some people outside the organization. I think Corey Promen in The Athletic has gone to bat for Ethan Samson as a potential third pair defenseman with size, a righty shot. He's got some mobility, and we know the organization loves Hunter McDonald.
Yeah.
I do wonder with Hunter McDonald, though, I will say this. Now that they have Carter Amico, I wonder if some of the sheen comes off of Hunter McDonald, because before it was like he was the only guy who fit that archetype in the organization. So it's like, well, if we need one of these big physical, can skate pretty well and can bring that intimidation factor on the back end, like it needs to be this guy because he's all we got.
Yeah.
Now you've got a guy in Carter Amico who's got second round pedigree who, assuming he comes back well from the knee injury, probably grades out as a better skater than Hunter McDonald.
Yeah.
I just wonder. It's not a this year problem because Amico is going to be in BU this year, but it could be a future problem. Like this could be McDonald's last year to be like the guy at the pro level who fits that mold.
Yeah. It's a good question. And I think it might a little bit be a this year problem. I think this is going to be a big year for McDonald to really show what he can do at this level. I think he was pretty up and down last year, and while he did make some progress across the sort of whole of the season, there were still some times late in the year into the playoffs where he was making some mistakes that he really shouldn't have been making, or he looked a little bit lost in terms of seeming like what was expected of him. So we got to kind of figure out if that was he wasn't jiving with whatever they were doing system-wise down there, or if he's just having trouble processing at the speed that he needs to be successful at this level and then the next one. I don't know which of those it is yet, but I think with Amico kind of breathing down his neck a little bit, they got to figure it out this year.
Yeah. And McDonald isn't a young prospect. He was passed over twice in the draft. So even though he's relatively recently drafted, he's not 19 years old.
Yeah.
It's not that he's running out of time, but he doesn't necessarily have the runway you might think he has, given the fact that he was only drafted a couple of years back.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, but I agree. I don't think there's a world where Hunter McDonald is not getting nightly starts.
Yeah.
And Ethan Samson, as we mentioned, is a guy that there are people in the organization that really like him, that think he could potentially be a legitimate NHL player. So I think that's good. So defense-wise, it's looking like a pretty good defense, honestly. We got Milan-Andre Helge Grans. These are 2 guys with NHL experience who look good in their NHL times. This is your first pair. Their first pair. That's a good first pair. Second pair, you've got a first-round pick in Oliver Bonk. You've got Adam Ginning, who has played in the NHL, who maybe hasn't excelled, but has been passable. And he's a solid enough AHL defenseman. And then third pair, you got Hunter McDonald and Ethan Sampson. This defense-wise, pretty good defense.
Yeah, and I mean, you still have Ty Murchison on the outside of that as somebody who could potentially be rotating in. Small sample size, but I liked what we saw from him at the end of last season. I think he could be kind of sneaky, intriguing.
I guess he's another guy who maybe fits that mold of like the physical defenseman. So maybe he's battling with Hunter McDonald this year.
Yeah.
You know, he could push Hunter McDonald down the depth chart a little bit if he excels and McDonald doesn't take a step.
Very well could be. And I think that's healthy. Like, you want to have those, you know, in sort of the internal competition is where I'm going with that. That's live broadcasting, folks.
You gotta love it. You know what? We've all made mistakes. I've made more than a few. In fact, I made one about 10 minutes ago. And then there's Ben Meehan, who they did sign. They signed out of college. I'm intrigued to see where he fits in. You know, if he's going to be a guy who, because he wasn't drafted by the organization, is on the outside looking in to start and he has to wait for injuries, or if they're high enough on him that they give him a job right off the bat.
Yeah. But lots of good depth.
Lots of good
Can't
depth.
hate on that.
And you're going to need depth. You're going to need depth because of injuries at the NHL level, injuries at the AHL level, and everything like that. And then real quick, the goalies. I did not even ask Bree to put together something for the goalies because the goalie situation is very straightforward. It appears to be Carson Bjarnason, definitely.
Yes.
He is a second-round pick, organization very high on his upside. They are going to give him time to develop and work through the pro game and figuring that out. We're assuming Ivan Fedotov is getting sent down.
Yes.
Because presumably the duo at the top is going to be Sam Ersson and Dan Vladar. They're not going to keep three goalies. Fedotov probably gets sent down. Then there is Alexei Kolosov, who I have been told is going to come to camp. Now, what happens from there, who knows?
Yeah.
But I have been told he is expected at camp, and this is not a, like, we're crossing our fingers. This is a, he's going to be at camp, and then we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I would have to believe that this ends, like, camp will end with either Kolosov back in Russia or Fedotov traded somewhere else and Kolosov accepting that he's an AHL goalie.
Yeah.
I would have to believe it's one of those two things.
Yeah. I mean, because they tried the 3 goaltender rotation at the NHL level this year. Didn't work. I can't imagine them being super keen to try it again down at the AHL level when they've got somebody in Bjarnason who, like, really, really needs to be developing there. Like, you can't be messing around with that.
No, you can't. And they really like Bjarnason. They really like his upside.
Yeah.
They like the idea of what they can mold him into, but they know that it's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah.
That this is not a, like, snap our fingers and he's going to be ready. He's raw. He needs work. So he's going to get his games. I just think that this ends one way or another. This ends with one of Kolosov or Fedotov not in the organizational mix by the end of camp. Like, for Fedotov, not in the organization at all. For Kolosov, back in Belarus.
Yeah, I think that's a fair enough bet.
That's my assumption. And then you've got a couple other guys who are probably more ECHL depth dudes. They did lose Parker Gahagan.
Yeah.
Bummer. He was
It's a shame.
He was popular.
Yeah.
He's popular.
But they've got some good depth there too. I mean, they need it. Like, last year they brought in Eetu Mäkiniemi for
They did do
some
that.
depth, and then he like had a sports hernia situation in like November and was done for the year. So you need some depth for your goaltenders or it'll go sideways pretty fast.
It does help. Well, Maddie, it doesn't look like we have any super chats, so I think we can just end the show.
Oh my gosh.
Perfect timing, right at the hour mark. I think I got this hosting thing down.
That was so efficient.
This is extremely efficient. Well, Maddie, as always, thanks so much for coming to the show.
Thanks so much.
Great to have you in person and great to talk Phantoms because, frankly, there's no one I know that knows the Phantoms better than Maddie Campbell. That's why we have you writing articles for us on a regular basis, which will continue this season as well.
Appreciate it.
All right. Well, that will do it for PHLY Flyers. We will be back tomorrow with Kelly Hinkle talking Flyers hockey. But thanks again to Maddie for stopping by.
We all silly like the mayor.